All right, welcome back. Another installment of a UCF film breakdown, a mashup between us here at the Sons of UCF and the very smart and talented Andy, who you can find on Twitter at UCFXOS or X's and O's. Andy, thanks for coming back, man. Good feedback off video one. Can't wait to see what we can do here with video two. A couple of things to orient. We're gonna kind of look back at the Memphis game. We'll kind of highlight some offensive, defensive clips, and then Andy's actually put together some forward-thinking thoughts on the game against Tulane coming up as well too. So that's what you can expect here in this video. But let's start back with Memphis. Obviously, a tough road win, Andy. You know, I think we needed to see UCF win on the road to know they were capable of that. I think we knew the team was talented, but we just haven't seen him, put it together on the road. So in your mind, as you kind of watched the game and you broke the film down, what were the keys to victory? What are one or two things that stand out that UCF did really well that you think propelled them to the victory over Memphis?
Yeah, I think that initial thoughts right off the bat, I think we blocked really, really well. I think that was something Coach Malzahn mentioned it in one of the press conferences. We were really handling. They were doing a lot of stunting up front. They were a lot of trying to move the tackles. They were trying to loop and pin. So we did a really good job of just handling that, taking our double teams, taking what they were given to us. Honestly, primarily we're a zone team running the ball. So not going and chase it. If somebody's going to go away from you or cut in from you, we were just riding the wave, and we did a really good job of continuing to do that. Keeping Mikey clean too. That was another good thing. I think maybe we only had one sack, maybe. I think that was in the second quarter, second drive, third drive of the game. So we did a really good job, I thought, there as well. And then overall, we just kind of kept the chains moving for the most part. I think, 35 points? We punted one time, I think.
Sure, yeah.
So, or maybe maybe two times, whatever it was. There wasn't a whole lot of punts in the game in general. And I think that we're going to need to continue to do that, especially against Tulane coming up this week as well.
Well, here's the big question people want to know. Mikey Keene started this game, played the entire game. Obviously, we've all seen John Rice Plumlee play the majority of the game so far. From your trained eye, did you see an appreciable difference in the offense that we saw John Rice Plumlee run and the offense that we saw Mikey Keene run on Saturday?
This past week, I did compared to the Cincinnati second half. Cincinnati second half, I felt like it was more the first, 6-7 weeks. This Memphis game, I felt like it was a little bit more curtailed to Mikey. We didn't really run any of our jet sweep package. We didn't really do, and because a lot of our jet package that we were running earlier in the year, we were also running the jet counter away from that. So we would jet to one side, and then we would counter and pull the opposite and run backside. So either running back or John Rice would take it backside. So without that real threat, I think we just kind of decided that we weren't even going to run the jet packages Saturday. Part of that might have been, we thought Memphis was going to be able to, maybe they thought they could stretch it out because they did have that one play to O'Keefe where, we got, I think, third quarter, drive 6 or 7, we end up going minus 10 yards on the O'Keefe.
Yeah.
So, for whatever reason, there was something that we didn't like there, and we thought that they were going to be able to stop it. So I think that those were a little bit noticeable differences, and then just a little bit more drop back pass. We ended up, I think he had about 30 attempts in the game or something.
Yeah, I think it was like 22 or 29, something like that.
Yeah, and one or two of them was he got sacked on one or two of them. So, really that's a drop back, but it doesn't count as a pass attempt. So we were out there probably trying to do that. Having said that, moving forward, though, I don't know necessarily what the game plan is going to be. It's always tricky to tell with Gus because it seems like every week he knows that the other team is really prepping for us, and then he's going to throw a curveball as well. So he always has his changeup calls.
Well, the raging debate on social media would be as follows. Some people are saying that the offense is more dynamic under John Rice Plumlee because of just the athlete that he is and that he's a threat essentially to be a weapon on the offense. Others are saying the offense is more dynamic when Mikey's at the helm because more playmakers are going to get involved. We're going to spread the ball around more. Again, in your trained eye, do you have a sense for the quote unquote dynamic element of either offense and which one you think maybe has more of those dynamic elements?
Yeah, can I? I'll play I'll cop out. I'll say.
Okay.
I'll say that it's probably realistically it's more dynamic every time you have a running quarterback, just because
Sure.
you have to cover more grass, you have to cover an extra gap, everything. But the last 6 quarters, it's probably been a little bit more efficient the other way. So maybe that's what you're trading is a little bit more continuity for some of the dynamic range. And that's my cop out answer.
That's fair. Well, to be fair, from a coach's perspective, right, you can win both ways, right? I mean, you can win with a dynamic offense. You can win with an efficient offense, right? And I think people sometimes get confused that Mikey's not going to put up these, ever worldly stats with, 150 rushing yards, 300 passing yards, 7 total touchdowns like we saw Plumlee do. But that doesn't mean we can't win, right? Like, I think people assume that if you lose that dynamic element, that means that you're sacrificing the ability to win games. But I would assume that as a coach, you would say that's not true, right? You can take that offense, be efficient, make the plays you have to make, and still win ball games, week in and week out.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, that's, it's always going to come down to the players making the plays. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, they're never going to rush for 100 yards in the game. But I don't know if Mikey Keene's going to, maybe he will if something happens, he gets a weird breakout play. But for the most part, we've seen just dating back to last year, his comfort zone is really, he wants to be in there delivering the ball to the other guys. He wants to be, that point guard situation. John Rice, he's done that to an extent. He's also maybe looked a little bit better when he's mobile, when he's sprinting out, when he's on the bootlegs and the rollouts and stuff. And then he kind of has that two-way option.
Well, all right, let's get into some clips. I know you've pulled out a bunch of clips. So again, big thanks to Andy. He spends a bunch of time going through the game film and pulling out different clips that kind of speak to him or that kind of perhaps provide some insight. So we're going to start on the defense this time around, Andy. And what I'll do, for this defensive set of clips, is first thing I'll do is I'll play the full play. So I'll play the play as it actually happened kind of live on the field. And this was a third down stop by UCF. I know a lot of fans were talking a lot about how UCF, struggles to get off the field. We definitely saw that against ECU, and we saw a little bit of it here against Memphis. But here's a third down play you can see on the timer there. This is late in the fourth quarter, so this is an opportunity where we have to have a stop, right? Obviously, we got Memphis pinned deep, and so here's kind of the play in real time. You see Seth Hennigan sort of setting up. UCF looks like they're crowding a bunch of people at the line of scrimmage there. You're going to call, actually, maybe this is the detail play. Look at that. So I guess we'll pause here then. What are you kind of highlighting here when you look at this box? What are you sort of looking at when you see this film right here?
Sure. Well, even if you back it up just like 1 or 2 seconds earlier, basically you see the receivers to start out. We had 3-by-1 to this side down low. With those 2 receivers that are close right there, we're going to play that probably as a stack. So initially we're going to stack check that on the defensive side, probably play 1 in, 1 out. And then as soon as he starts motioning away, we have that auto check. So now you can actually see the DBs, they start communicating where, all right, so 7, all right, now I'm going to take middle field, and then you're going to rotate over with him. So that's obviously that's a good job communicating, because you don't want 2 guys going the wrong way, and now all of a sudden you have a free streaker down the field. You don't want to leave middle post open. Up front, we're showing them pressure, 3rd and 10, whatever it is, 3rd and 9, I don't know what it is, but they're on the -8 yard line. Not a lot of room to work with for the offensive side. If they get a holding call in the end zone, it's a safety automatically. So you assume that they got to kind of move a little bit quickly. They know that they don't have all the time in the world. So we're going to bring a little bit of pressure here. We decide that we're going to run a little pick stunt. So we have kind of like a TE call, a text call. And that means, the tackle's going first, and then the end is going to loop back inside. We had a really nice play. It's actually almost the exact same type of pressure that we ran when we got the safety last week with Cincinnati. We did the same thing where Ricky Barber and Anthony Montalvo, they ran the pick, and they went away, and then we looped back on the inside A-gap. So that's basically what we're going to see here again is I don't know exactly how we pull all the pressure numbers, the hurries, the hits, all that type of stuff. Sacks are pretty black and white. But on the hurries and hits, I think it said for the game we only had 1 or 2. Well, I don't know if this is the one that they're counting or not. But we do, we force a bad ball right here on 3rd down, and that's, huge to be able to get out of this situation. So,
well, just to orient, so you've got on the line the right side of the line standing up is Trayvon Morris-Brash. So he's going to be the E that's represented here while the 2 tackles kind of stunt in here. So we'll kind of pull it forward a little bit for you here, and you can sort of see it maybe happening here in real time here. So let me back that up a little bit. So you see Tremont sort of making that run there, right there in the middle, right? So you see, it looks like Ricky Barber and Lee Hunter perhaps got engaged. You see Tremont kind of going through the gap right here, and to your point, that's the pressure element right here. But I also want to point out, to your point about the secondary, the way they sort of rolled the coverage, right? So looks like Devontae Brown initially was the one kind of circling back and pointing that out. So you see the way that the coverage kind of rolled back here, and now we have people positioned, perfectly on that swing pass on the right hand side. And nowhere to go for Seth Hennigan, so he kind of throws it away too. But really, the action up front here again by Tremont Bartsch and the D tackle is kind of making that twist stunt. Really kind of puts the pressure and forces him to throw the ball a little bit earlier.
Exactly, and Ricky Barber, he does a great job. Jason Johnson, they do a great job, because in reality, they know in their mind, unless the O-line just completely busts, if they slide the wrong way, I'm getting blocked. That's my job right here, is to get blocked. What I need to do is I need to go set the wall. Set a pick first, like basketball, but now I need to set the wall and pressure it. So the quarterback is going to step back forward. You want him to climb into the pocket because you have pressure coming back through the A gap. So that's really, that's really the way you're trying to funnel it is, if you can flush him out one way, you're going to force him step into the loop. And that's where we're trying to go. Up top on the D line, Celiscar, I'm not sure if he was supposed to rush or if he was just playing peel technique or not, because he had kind of that little fast flare out of there. So he does drop out, probably no harm, no foul. I don't know if he was supposed to, because obviously we carried a DB over there as well.
Yeah, so Celiscar right here, as you're kind of watching this, let's go back a little bit.
Maybe he spied it, maybe that was the call for him to be in spy as well. But as a whole, I thought we did a really nice job on, just in general. There's really nowhere to go for the ball. We know that he really liked his tight end. 86 was a very good player for them. And that was their big red zone target. And, 3rd and 10, whatever, that's pretty much the exact same thing as the red zone. That you're trying to, that you need to get those 10, 12 yards.
It seems like we pulled this. So this is a 3rd down play as well. In your experience, do we have more of a propensity to do this on 3rd downs? Is this more of when you see UCF kind of pull this kind of action, these kind of plays on more of a 3rd down call?
I would say so, and I think that's pretty much every team though. Just you tend to 3rd down, you're going to light them up. You're going to start getting some pressure in there, just because that's you don't want to let a quarterback just sit back and. If you only have a 4-man rush or a 3-man rush, the odds are if you have open field to work with, they're going to find somebody to go. Difference is now when we start going to like that low red zone, when we go to like the +10 and in and we're playing defense, we have a tendency to really drop out into drop coverage zone, like drop 8 and stuff. And that's where it gets really tough, because now there's no more vertical room for the offense to go. So that's where we tend to drop off. But when I'm seeing open field like that, that's where we really kind of, dial up the blitzes. We bring in the pressures. We bring it from 2nd and 3rd level and stuff. So, overall, again, I just think it's a good job. You're mugged up front, and you're forcing the O-line to, you're forcing them to dictate, basically. When you have those guys in your face like that, you can't just unaccount for them. You have to know if one guy's coming, if one guy's going, staying. And you can see, obviously, the 2 O-linemen for Memphis right there, one of them's just turned around and the other one's looking at his own quarterback chasing. And that's never a good situation for the O-lineman. If you're facing your quarterback, you probably got beat somewhere.
Is it risky to run a sort of a twist stunt like that near the goal line? Is there any risk in doing that sort of so close to the goal line at that point?
3rd and 10, I don't think so, or whatever it is, 3rd and long, I don't think so. Just, the only real risk you might see there, and that might have been why Celiscar is kind of dropping off, is 3rd and long, you also kind of have to be in screen aware, screen or draw aware. Those are kind of usually that's kind of usually the heads up play, especially if it's 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 20 or something like that. There's no real 3rd and 20 plays in the playbook, so it's usually dump off screen, that type of stuff. Hey, UCF foreshadowing may or may not have done a good job on 3rd and long with a screen.
But they had a couple of good plays too on 4th down. You brought this clip, so I think, although I may have mislabeled that first one, I think this one is labeled correctly. This should be a 4th down stop that UCF made in the game. So this should be the full play here that we're going to see. Obviously, this is earlier in the game, 4th and 1, a huge play at this point, right? I mean, we score, they score, so momentum's kind of, really kind of in the balance here. And so you'll kind of see a 4th-and-1 call, which a lot of teams are doing these days, right? They're going 4th-and-1 in their own area, but you see UCF obviously sort of stuff in the backfield, a nice change of momentum, get off the field kind of a play. We sort of flip it, but let's take a look and see specifically what happened on this one, and kind of get into the details of how that sort of took place here too. So we'll bring it back off the top here for you, and grab it wherever you need to.
Sure. Well, one of the things just to make note is that they decided to sub in. It was, in between 3rd and 4th, they subbed in their heavy personnel. So they added in their tight ends. I think they had 3 tight ends in the game right now. I think it was 3 tight ends right here, actually, because you got the 2 receivers out. But as soon as they went heavy, we decided to go heavy as well. And that's kind of what I wanted to circle in the middle. We had Montalvo, we had Lee, and then we had Barber. So those 3 guys right there, you're basically playing eagle technique. You have like guard, center, guard, or covered. Those are just 3 big human beings.
Yes, they are.
They're big. They're not just big. I mean, they're fast. They're very, very good. We've seen them move a lot. So it's kind of a nightmare situation because you can block usually 1 or 2 of them, especially if you double team them. But now you're trying to leave somebody else go one-on-one, and that's the tough situation right there. Also looking at it, so up top and down low, we're zero. We're in cover 0 right now, up top and down low. So we don't have help. They know that they don't have help. We don't really anticipate the pass on 4th-and-1 from this situation, but just in case there is a pass, these guys have to be in alert. And that's kind of that pre-snap look that we're looking at right here. So pistol again, or more of a downhill run, more downhill pistol. Off the snap, Montalvo does a great job beating across. He's going across the face, and 55.
So that's the yellow arrow, right? Yeah. Is Montalvo going across?
Yep. And then we have linebacker Phil. So as soon as we were able to clear that out, I made the little circle up top. I don't know if it was Barber or Hunter. One of them is getting double teamed. I want to say it was Lee Hunter in the middle because he was at the nose right there. So unfortunately, he ate the double team, but somebody had to get doubled right there. That was just kind of the situation. Right down there on the outside, I don't know if he's safety or cornerback right there, but basically towards the edge on the bottom half of the line.
So that should be number 30. I think it's Cam Moore. That's a true freshman linebacker, Bam Moore's brother.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So he was kind of that edge protection just in case quarterback did end up pulling it on the option, just in case he did pull and read. So that's why you're not going to see him diving in there, dogpiling it right now until the very end, until he knows and he's for sure that the ball is gone. Quarterback was watching him. He was watching quarterback, and they just kind of had to play it out safely together. But really, this play is made. Anthony Montalvo just getting that penetration there. It's one of those things. You can get blocked, but if you're penetrating in the backfield, what good is the block if you're rearranging and you're rerouting the running back?
I'm trying to see who made the tackle now. It looks like Tremont Wars Bartsch actually is the one who makes the tackle, if I see this correctly here.
Yeah, I think he ends up doing that too. I think he ends up making the tackle because you end up just kind of getting it all bunched up. Potentially right there, Jason Johnson might have also had, was it Jason Johnson there? Let me see. Yeah.
Yeah. But the coaching point here is essentially Montalvo kind of clears out, to use a basketball term, sort of clears the space out, right? It just gives TMB just a clear path to get in there and make the tackle. Then with Cam Moore kind of on the outside contain part. Is this something, if you're Memphis, like do you try to audible this at the line? Is this something you think that they can pick up sort of pre-snap?
If I were them, honestly, in that situation, I'd probably call timeout, just seeing the big bodies that are in front of you, especially if you don't think that you can block them. I think you also might want to go under center in this situation. I understand they might be a shotgun team, but just, if you're under center, maybe quarterback sneak, maybe just some different situations, or you try to go a little bit outside, try to bounce it. And that's one of those things. I don't necessarily know what they have in their playbook, but trying to go straight ahead where they were at with a tight end and a wing right there. I mean, that guy in the wing position, he doesn't really have too much leverage to really block and help out. So they're almost playing a man down right there.
How much of this is scouting and tendency though, right? Because to your point, it's cover zero. So a lot
Yeah,
of teams love that fade to the end zone, right? Or
yeah.
a little slant over the middle. Is this something you think that UCF maybe picks up during film study to say, hey, they don't have the athletes on the outside, or they're not going to be able to kind of go that fade. So if they go 4th and 1 here, we're comfortable going cover zero man to man on the outside because we don't think they can throw that ball.
Um, it's a good question. I would say just based on how they were throwing it later on in the game, I would say probably not. Just I think Memphis is pretty comfortable, pretty confident in their own throwing. I think this was just kind of one of those, 4th and 1. They just said, hey, we should, this is a run call instead of a pass call. They don't want to. The fade right there is, probably at best 50-50. Maybe if you're an offensive guy, you're saying, oh, this is 70-30, 60-40, whatever. If you're an offensive guy, you always think the fade is in your favor.
Sure.
But but from 4th and 1, I think that a lot of OCs are still just comfortable, let's call the run play. Let's not leave it up to chance, because you could throw a perfect ball and all of a sudden your receiver still drops it. So I think that that's probably the reason that they kept it on the ground, because later on in the game, obviously they moved the ball pretty well throughout the air as well. So I don't think that they were necessarily nervous to throw the ball right there.
All right, awesome. All right, let's go to the last one here too. So
Yeah.
one of the things we've talked about a bunch is turnovers. UCF has not been a defense that's been able to turn the ball over a ton, and we had 2 picks in this game. One was kind of a bouncing ball, hot potato, but the other one was a sort of a bit of an overthrow by Memphis, and Newt Wilson makes the pick. Here's kind of the play full speed in real time. See a bit of an overthrow, and there's Devad Newt Wilson sort of makes the interception there too.
Yep.
Tries to make a bit of a run, gets hog tied down there. But let's look at that in more detail and see a little bit more about maybe how that play took place here too. So what's kind of the pre-snap for you as you? Oh, that's the wrong one. What's kind of the pre-snap for you there when you looked at that play from what you saw?
Yeah, pre-snap. Basically, we're showing them too high, showing the middle field open. So that's kind of the initial. If you are thinking that it's going to be middle field open, that inside, that dig, the something, we're throwing it over the middle where he was trying to go for the tight end. I think that was kind of an instinctual, that this is going to be kind of that primary where he wants to go. Especially, we also know that is the primary receiver for him as well. So we're sitting in too high. We decide to spin the coverage again. We're going to roll it like we did before on the other third down. This one right here is we're kind of rolling it weak. So for me, I guess in Saban terms, Georgia terms, Belichick terms, they call that six. Six guy right here. And six is just it's the opposite of 3. It's just 3 weak. If you were rolling it strong, it'd be 3. Rolling it opposite is 6. Do a really nice job with the safety. When he's rolling down, the safety who's coming down right here, he's covering – he basically has the curl to flat window. So he sees the action from the running back going wide. So he's going to start widening out. He's going to relate to him. He's not going to run up to the line and cover him in the backfield just because, you don't want to get burned if he starts running a wheel outside. So he kind of, relates and widens is what we call it. Looking at as well, sorry about that, 5 and 88. So Celiscar and Barber do a really nice job just kind of gaining depth in their rush. They're kind of getting run off right there, but you're trying to penetrate. You're trying to get there. Montalvo again. He's pulling the double, and then now you have Trayvon Morris Brash, and he's kind of in a 2-way go right here. So he's in the beat the quarterback or beat the left tackle situation, get to the quarterback. So again, I don't know what they're considering pressure or not pressure, but if he holds that ball for one more second, that's probably a sack right there. It's either a sack or at worst the tip ball. So this I just thought was a really another nice job for the D-line, especially because I've seen chatter, everyone saying, we don't get pressure on the quarterback. We're not getting pressure. I don't know. I think that this was one of those plays where we did get pressure on him.
Well, the other thing I kind of want to call out here too, if you're looking at right about the yellow line on the screen there, on the right hand side is Quadric Bolt, on the left hand side is Devad Wilson. So when you talk about rolling the coverage, as soon as the play breaks, you see Quadric start to walk down a little bit there.
Yeah.
So he walks down, and you see Devad immediately turn and sprint back. Obviously, he's going to be the one who obviously makes the play. But his responsibility here, Andy, is he sort of reading the quarterback's eyes to figure out what side of the field he's going to. So is he have responsibility for both sides, or is he dropping to play middle on that?
So he's middle third. He's center field right there. He's middle
Okay.
field. So when I was saying middle field open, middle field closed, so he's the post player. He's the middle field closed player. The two corners on either side, they're cover three on either side. They got deep third, and if the receivers start to go inside of that, then we're going to try to funnel it back into the corner, or excuse me, the corner's going to try to funnel it inside to where they have help. So that would be the post safety, or we have the underneath linebackers. Really, the only place this place gets a little bit hairy is pre-snap. Memphis does a really good job right here. This is technically it's a 3-by-1 set, 3 receivers over there. You have your 2 wide ones, then you have kind of that wing who's tucked away. So 3-by-1 is what we're looking at receiver wise. 9 times out of 10, the receiver in the wing spot right back here, he doesn't run a vertical. 9 times out of 10, if he's going to run something, it's usually a short. He's running like a little hook in the middle, or he's running like a quick out. He's running something, but it's usually not middle. So we actually, in my opinion, here's where I think we missed it, is we should have rerouted him out of the seam. But I just don't think that we were expecting him to go vertical, just because you almost never see that. If they're going to go vertical, they're usually in that more, that traditional tight end on the line spot, like Gronkowski, or for you, it would be like Jason Witten. So, hand in the dirt, they're lined up next to the tackle. That's when they're going to get vertical. If they're back set like that and they're, kind of looking like a wing back, they're really not usually going vertical. So that's a tricky one, and I think that's I think T. Will kind of alluded to that without necessarily calling it out, saying they did some unique things that we weren't necessarily ready for. And that's one of them. That just is. I know people might say, oh, that's so easy. Why wouldn't you expect that? It's like, well, because you don't expect it. It's not when they're
also for Memphis. You had highlighted before that their tight end Priestcorn was just a great player, somebody that wanted to get the ball to, right? So this is another example offensively of them just trying to find a unique way to get the ball in the hands of their playmakers. What I think is interesting about this, though, Andy, is that a lot of people, to your point, would say, well, that's an overthrow. Like, yeah, he threw a bad ball. We got lucky. Devad Wilson was just sitting right there. But it sounds like, if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is, yeah, sure, it was an overthrow, and you want your quarterback to put the ball on the receiver in that case. And in theory, if he does that, it's a catchable pass. But the hidden part of this play really is the quick pressure he's getting, that he's kind of forced to step up in the pocket, that now at this point he's got sort of pressure coming from his throwing side, and then Trayvon Bartsch kind of flashing here late in front of his eyes. Does that force him to maybe not step into the throw as much? You can tell he's not really getting a chance to step in as much because he's getting walloped. So while we might look at it and say, well, he overthrew the ball, we got lucky, it sounds like what you're saying is that pressure is what caused the quote unquote luck, right? It caused him to throw maybe a little faster, maybe a little bit off base than he wanted to. And because we had the right coverage on, there's Devad Wilson, right in the right spot, ready to make a play.
Yeah. And he also, it's not a blind throw because he knows exactly where his guy, where the tight end is going. But we do have that middle hook player right there as well. Kind of a little referee screen. But he has to get the ball over the top now. He has to clear the fence, get it over the fence, and still drop it in, but also try to hit him on a line. So that's, it's one of those things. The ball, I think, floats a little bit because he's trying to get it over, make sure that, if the ball is probably where it is, I mean, there's a good chance that linebacker ends up tipping it, knocking it down anyways as well. So I think that's part of it is, I think, and then we also had an end zone shot of this as well. I don't know if we had that pulled up at all. But yeah, basically you can see that too, where you can just barely see where the tight end is starting to flash in his break, and the quarterback has to let go of the ball right there. So this is more of a really timing. It's a feel thing for him, and he has to anticipate that his guy's going to be there and he's going to be able to get the ball to him in the correct time. And unfortunately for them, it was, fortunately for us, unfortunately for them, he ends up being a little bit high with it.
All right, hit me with a true false then. So true or false? UCF does have a problem getting off the field on third down, in your opinion. Is that true or false?
Again, I'll probably have to go on the fence. It's statistically, I would say, yeah, I guess in theory, I think we did let up a decent amount of third downs. We didn't really force too many punts out of that game either. And I think sometimes, just in general, with the way momentum swings in college football, you do see some elongated drives. But I wouldn't necessarily say that we have. I don't know. It's tough right there to say that we have an issue or a problem, because you look at our scoring defense, like, we're what are we, top 25 in scoring defense, top 25 in red zone, all that. So some of that stuff where we're really trying to lock it down, we've done a very good job there. Open field, we're in between the 30s. That maybe is questionable right there. But at the same time, we haven't gotten beat deep too many times for like a long 50-yard touchdown. So I think that's potentially part of it as well. I think part of it is, kind of understanding and feeling out, knowing where you're at. We know where we're at offensively, right? But I don't know necessarily if fans always know where we're at defensively. And they're kind of coming around to that idea, saying, oh, bend, don't break, bend, don't break. But yeah, if you're expecting to shut out everybody and looking like, 2014 Alabama, whatever it is, that's just not where we're at right now.
Let's switch to the offensive side of the ball. Let's see if these video clips aren't loading as well as I'd hope. But here's an early score. This should be this is all correct. This should be the early touchdown pass from Mikey Keene to Kobe Hudson. And so let's pause here, kind of pre-snap. Andy, what are you seeing sort of pre-snap as we line up on this one?
Yeah, pre-snap. We're taking a look right now. We're variation of cover one right now. We kind of have a press one look. Middle field safety for them. Up top, Mikey's kind of, he's taking his look and seeing, what's going to be the better throw right here, the wide side of the field or short side of the field. We're on the hash. Also, UCF, just to make note of it, and here's what I want to make note of, is we went tackle over. So where the little red arrow is, we actually shifted a tackle over there. So we have an actual tackle blocking. And then on the left side, we subbed in Paul Rubel, who's our exchange student, transfer student.
I think he is a Josh Heupel out of Germany recruit, 6'10". He obviously normally is the backup left tackle, kind of inside the game a little bit. He usually wears number 69 as a tackle, but on these plays he wears 89, which is more of a tight end number. And really, I think the advantage there, Andy, is that we don't have to declare him tackle eligible. So in the NFL, if you watch on Sundays, they usually come in and they have to do that thing where they declare that they're tackle eligible. I think obviously the number precludes that from happening. So so on the left side there in that yellow box, smaller yellow box, you see that's actually big old 6'10" Paul Rubel.
Yeah, and he when he stands up, he looks all 6'10", and he looks really, really good, really natural playing the left tackle spot. But that is just one of those extra things where he's in a tight end number. Memphis, I don't know if they fully realized it or not, what was going on. You can kind of see there's some communication. So I don't know if they're saying, hey, this isn't a tight end over on my side. But I think they're trying to figure it out right now, pre-snap at the line. Yeah.
You also highlighted up top. You have the up top receiver in a box. What are you seeing up top?
So that's where I think Mikey, you can see kind of his helmet. You can see the stripe is angling that way. He's taking a look. He's realizing, okay, I got man right now. And he's kind of weighing his options pre-snap, because again, this is going to be a quick drop. This is going to be, I think, in the Malzahn offense, I think we call it a big three drop, where it's basically, you're doing 3-step drop, but it's a little bit longer. It's not necessarily the quick game. It's not necessarily the slants and the hitch game. We are going a little bit more vertical. And again, so I think that's kind of where he was looking at. On the outside, up top, we had the out and up. It wasn't necessarily a straight fade. He's trying to use the real estate that he has, because he has the wide side of the field. So he's giving him kind of that speed out look, and then he's going to turn it up and go up. Safety basically has to play it straight up. He can't cheat either way. He has to play that middle field post, and then down low. So I think that here's where, again, it's not really a full field read. You're kind of going, it's either going to be left or right. If the Hudson play isn't open, we do have the check down right here to Holler, I believe it is, lined up.
Yep.
And then, blocking does really well. Again, just to highlight Paul Rubel and give him his credit. I mean, he, running his feet, he's moving. That's a small, fast guy, and he's getting his hands on, he's running with him. He's, that's really what you're asking for out of a tackle is feet. Footwork is where you need to be.
Well, I also want to call it something you shared on Twitter. Again, follow Andy at UCFXOS. Very top of the pocket there. That's Isaiah Bowser, who's engaging one-on-one with, I believe that's going to be a blitzing linebacker, the linebacker you earlier called out. And Bowser engages him one-on-one. I think that's something that's underrated. I know a lot of people are asking, obviously we've seen RJ Harvey's development from a running back perspective. And we obviously know what Bowser is. There's a lot of chatter about Johnny Richardson and why we aren't seeing Johnny Richardson more. And I think this is just me personally, Andy. So my question to you is, I think what separates, Johnny maybe from not getting in the field as much is Bowser is a fantastic blocker. I don't think he gets enough credit for how much he's able to kind of keep the quarterback clean when he's in the play here. And you see that here right up top with him engaging, that linebacker, giving Mikey enough time, obviously, to make the throw there too. But I think, my personal opinion, and you tell me from your expertise perspective, I think Bowser's underrated from a blocking standpoint.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. I think that he's a big body. He's 6'1", 6'2", something like that. And then you look at, RJ Harvey is, I think, 5'8", 5'9". So you're a bigger frame, bigger body. You can really help and use them more, set the edge, 6-man, 7-man protections. And I think that does give kind of that more dynamic look too, where the defense can't just tee off and just can't decide, hey, when this back is in the game, it's going to be a run. When this back is in the game, it's going to be a pass. Really, when Bowser's in the game and second and short is dealer's choice right here. So you have your options. But, this very much looks like a run package right now. And then they also, the box is heavy. They have 8 in the box right here. So they're ready for the run.
Well, is this something too, and take us inside the game a little bit, right? Like, is this something that Bowser just understands that he's got responsibility on that right side, so that if anybody sort of comes in to that right side, or is he kind of reading to try to figure out, is there going to be a free rusher? Where's it at? Like, how does Bowser know that he's got responsibility on that right side as this guy kind of comes off?
So typically, at least, typically the center or the quarterback, one of them is going to make protection calls. And, if they see hot blitzes coming off either side, they're going to call that out. But usually they do know whether they're going to slide. In a typical 4-down rush, you're kind of doing a 2-3, like a little half-man slide either way, either side of the center. Now that we added in the extra tackle and we added in the extra lineman over there, I think that we had a design call. You can see everybody, it's kind of a slide left. So it's like a full slide. And then he's taking anything that leaks out on the edge pressure coming off the edge right there. So I think that was design call. But he does scan the A-gap first just to see, if there was any sort of initial pressure up the middle. Basically with running backs, or tight ends as well, you don't necessarily want them covering the down linemen. You want them taking the second level guys, more of the guys who are more their kind of size and fit. So, taking linebackers or taking DBs who are coming off the edges. You don't really, you just don't want to put Isaiah Bowser trying to block like Montalvo or Barber or somebody like that, somebody equivalent to that size.
But you also have to have a lot of trust in Bowser, right? To know that he could take on that block one-on-one and you might get the time, right? So that's Absolutely. Also that's a coaching point, right? We talk about reps in practice and guys showing in practice, right? Is it these little things that you see in practice that are the reason that certain guys get playing time, even though maybe they're only averaging 2 yards a carry or they only get 2 catches a game? But is it these little things that sort of separate some guys out from playing time?
Yeah, I would think so. I would think it's the willingness to get up there and, the willingness to go bang pads and to go, not catch a block and fall back into the quarterback. You have to go actively and go engage the block when the pressure's coming. It's going to be, you have to step up and set the force right there. He's eating it a little bit, but that's fine. That's just, naturally pocket's going to break down. Defense is trying to get into the quarterback. But if you're getting pushed into the quarterback's lap every single time, that's when the quarterback starts having those issues. So you need a guy who is going to go attack it. I'm trying to think, like off the top of my head, I know, Maurice Jones-Drew, he was a very good pass blocking running back. Guys like that who just, they understand the full, what the team is trying to do. They understand, hey, you know what, I'm not going out on a route this time. So I need to help. Really, it's availability. It's the accountability. That's where you're getting their playing time. It's guys who they think that they can count on and trust.
And obviously, we'll look at the throw downfield finally. Now, Mikey throws a nice ball here.
Yeah,
and this is it looks like a back shoulder. Is this in your mind? Is this a designed? I know there's a lot of like that. That's like the new buzzword, right? Everything's the back shoulder throw.
Yeah,
I think we have the other view of it here. Is this a designed back shoulder in your mind? Is this a bad ball by Mikey? Is this just him saying, hey, that's the only spot I can put it for my receiver?
No, I thought this was a great ball. I think this was designed just because we do have that middle field safety. So if, he's on the shorter side, if that safety decided to scream over there off the snap of the ball, which he didn't, but if he did decide to go scream over there, and he'd have a chance to kind of tip it away. So you do, you kind of put that ball towards the outside edge, and I think Hudson, again, he does a great job with the little stop and go. He just buys himself enough time. He gets also into the outside, into that blind spot window. So he does a really good job. Man turn right here. He's losing his feet, and then he kind of, that's all he really needed at that point.
Is that the route? Is that called? Is that essentially what I think? I'm using my Madden days, right? Is that essentially the sluggo? Is that the route that's called in the huddle, or is that Hudson and Keene sort of reading something together there?
I would think that would be. I think the stop and go was a pre-call right there.
Gotcha, okay.
I think it was pre-call, but that's just based on the timing that Mikey had right there.
And you'll see then the connection here on the end too. So a nice, easy touchdown for
nice
UCF.
Pitch
Pitch and catch. Right? The easier you can make it, the better it looks. Right. He had another touchdown here. Let's go quickly. We'll go to his other touchdown pass here. This is Kobe Hudson again on a touchdown pass from Mikey. Again, here's pre-snap here. I think we'll pause it here. We got some stuff going on here. What do you see in pre-snap?
Yeah. So pre-snap. Pre-snap, we're shifting. We're short shift now. We're going into a bunch. This is what we call trips bunch right here. 3 receivers close. On the backside, that you're going to have a one-on-one opportunity as well. Defensively, right now. So before they were just in the man free with a middle field post safety. Now we're playing middle field open again. So you see the 2 high safeties on either side of the hash. So you have up top right there, one-on-one on the backside with Baker. That's what you're getting. But you also have that safety who he's going to help out. So Baker, if he released outside, that backside safety with the red arrows, I put the little 2 arrows, he would be able to poach back over to the middle. So because we get a little, we get inside stem, he has to kind of respect that and hold that over there. To the bunch now, this is an auto check. I think this is an auto check because it's pretty common auto check for defenses. It's called box. So a lot like what it sounds like, similar to basketball, box and one, you're covering 4 corners. This right here is what we're going to do on the defensive side. It's a quarters play. When you get trips bunch like this, you're not going to play it just tight man just because too many people are rubbing and picking. So it's I think Clemson won a national championship over Alabama doing something like that, where they picked and rubbed off the edge. So you run box. So you're going to cover one corner deep. Safety's going to cover the inside corner, and then the corner is going to cover the backside corner as well. So that's essentially how they're going to try to play it out. The one thing that we do a really nice job of here is just the call. It's kind of that little double post action where that's just great on a double post or drag post. Or dig post, excuse me. That's where you're going to have a really good opportunity against quarters because one guy's going to have to clamp down on the inside on that first post where Haller's going. And then the second guy, he's out leveraged now behind. So he's behind Hudson. And I thought this was just overall, it was a, really, really good call in this situation. Really good scheme, especially when you think and that quarters is coming. There really wasn't anything that corner could do about that just because that's where his leverage was. He had to be on the outside. He was outside of that. And then that safety in the red arrow, because Baker was holding him over there, he wasn't able to help out fast enough. So just turns into really easy pitch and catch for the quarterback. I mean, this is pretty much a straight line throw for him. And he knew exactly where he was going to go with the ball. As soon as he saw that first safety have to clamp down, go to Haller, he knew that window was going to be wide open on the back.
So it's an easy read then by Mikey, right? This is, he knows where he's going with the ball pre-snap. Once he sees that motion and sort of sees how Memphis is kind of playing that.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that they had talking points and clips going into it. So I'm thinking that they knew exactly, or that was the anticipation. As you tell them, hey, you know what? If we go to bunch, they're going to box it, and that just. He knew what he was going to have to do right there. He knew basically exactly where he was going to have to place the ball because he never really turns off of him. It's kind of, he does that flash look. He knows exactly, he knows that it's one-on-one. Backside of 3x1 is 9 times out of 10 is going to be one-on-one. The only time you're going to have help is either safety or you got to pull somebody else out of the box to help out. So, quick look, it's 2-on-1 over there, or you have 1-on-1 over on the front side again, and you know that he's out leveraged, so he goes back to the front side throw. Because the Baker throw, I mean, that's just that wouldn't have been, if you want to throw 2-to-1, it's just not a winning matchup for the offense. But this is the winning matchup for the offense, is when you're going to get inside leverage of that corner, and then you're running an inside breaking route.
Nice little pitch and catch for a touchdown for UCF. All right, let's look at we got 2 more quick offensive plays we'll get to. And then we'll talk a little bit of Memphis here too. So this is one that probably gets lost in the shuffle a little bit, right? There's a couple big plays, but you sent this one through. I thought it was really interesting. This is a late game run. So this is UCF is up at this point, 35-28, about 2 minutes to go in the game. And this is ice in the clock time, baby. This is where we've got to kind of run some clock. We've got the wild Bowser formation here, where Isaiah Bowser is going to take the direct snap here. What are you seeing here pre-snap? You got some arrows on the screen there. What are you seeing pre-snap here?
Yep. So again, with our Wildcat, we do like to go tackle over as well. So where the traditional left tackle is, now we're bumping him over to right tackle. Where the left tackle is, we put in Paul Rubil again. So it's essentially a tackle, but he's wearing tight end number. We also are doing something where we would call FIB, or formation into the boundary right now. So the receivers, we're on that short post right there, or we're on the short hash. So closer to the boundary right now, we're kind of messing up with Memphis a little bit, because we're putting the eligible receivers to the tight spot over there. Normally, like the last play we saw, when you had 3-by-1 receivers, you normally put them to the wider side of the field. But we're condensing it all right now. So we're kind of really tightening up the formation right here as well. Holler and 85, Wosh Margin. And
Margin, yep.
And so they they're lined up, they're ready to go. Basically, we're going to do that little jet motion like we tend to do on our jet package. And then on the left side of the line, you're going to see down, down, down. So down blocks, and then we're screaming across for the kick out. And that's where we're going to run the little counter action back here. And, it ends up just being blocked up, beautifully right here.
Here's what I've always been interested about it. And when we do the Wildcat, right? So if I'm not mistaken, all the way to the left boundary, that's Mikey Keene, right?
Yeah.
Like, as a defense, like, he's not a receiving threat, right? Like, in some respects, like, once you see this formation as a defense, again, my logical non-football playing brain, I say to myself, I'm not throwing to him. So like, but yet you have to have a guy out there to respect that, right? Like, what does that do, having the quarterback out there? Like, why don't defenses adjust to that and be like, hey, they're not throwing to the quarterback here. Let me kind of crash down and sort of see what happens.
Sure. I would say the reason here in this situation, because it was 2nd and 12, you break the huddle from the sideline, and it looks like a normal personnel grouping going in. So if you sub him out, like I think against Louisville, we subbed out John Rice to put in an extra body at the goal line for the touchdown, and we still end up scoring. But if the quarterback's coming out, they know immediately that it's going Wildcat. When you keep the quarterback in the huddle and they you're running out there like a normal alignment, now you probably have a regular defense called. So unfortunately for them, there's not necessarily time to adjust, especially with no timeouts to go anymore. So, Mikey does a really, really good job. I mean, I don't think any quarterback loves being the decoy in Wildcat, but he has a man look for him, and he's given his guy a perfect runoff. He's giving him a skip step. He's doing outside fade. I mean, we're not throwing a fade to him. So I knew we threw the ball earlier in the game, or, pushed the ball forward to Stephen Martin on the goal line right there. But we're not letting Isaiah Bowser throw it up the sideline with the game on the line. But Mikey does do a good job of just, running off his guy, because that's exactly what you're trying to do in man. We end up pulling over. Memphis kind of overplays it right now when they do travel with the motion. They're in a man look right now, in a man blitz, and they're kind of stuck because now we're also running counter on the backside. So we jet away from it. We jet to the wide side of the field. We start pulling momentum over. And then we kind of use that momentum against them by going down blocks through. And then we have the right guard. He's pulling through to do the first kick out. And then Holler's leading up. So kick, pull, or pull, kick,
Yeah, so you got 77 Palue kind of leading the charge there. You got Holler behind him. You
yeah,
see Tylen Grable, who is normally the left tackle now on the right side, who's stealing down. I think it's number 5 there for Memphis. But what really struck me when I saw this play, obviously you see sort of Holler and Palue kind of open up that alley for Bowser there.
yeah,
But to that I guess that left side of the line, right side of your screen here now, Sam Jackson and Paul Ruba, who you mentioned, are just demolishing these guys on the inside. Like you can see
yeah,
right there. I think it's 15 and 22, and even a third guy's getting held up a little bit. I mean, they are just absolutely demolishing that guy.
yeah,
Holler's got the seal on the outside. Looks like Rubel gets a little bit of 9 here on the way out to
yeah,
buy Bowser just another extra step or two. Huge first down for UCF from that standpoint. And again, that's why I love breaking this stuff down with you, Andy, because at the beginning of the season, I'm the idiot on the Suns UCF podcast saying the O-line's struggling. What are we doing? We can't block anybody. And then you watch this like poetry in motion, and you're
yeah,
like, damn, that's impressive. Like the way
yeah,
that this all came together, and the way that again, from everybody from Holler to Palue to Rubelt and Sam Jackson just killing people here, the way that came together, it's a thing of beauty to see.
yeah. And Bowser does exactly what he needs to do. He's gonna ride the wave. I gave a little clip out of a certain playbook, um, and so this is not exact formation, but it's giving the demonstration where you can see with a right guard, he's going to kick the end man on the line. So right in this situation, it was the defensive end who came through, and then you're going to have your tight end wing. He's leading up the charge, and he's going to take first color, which is probably that inside backer right there. And that's, yeah, again, we did a great job just blocking it, down blocking, getting through. Yeah, and just follow your guys, just follow your keys. Don't bounce that outside. And then, I think that's the tendency of when you see a lot of the scat backs and a lot of the skinnier backs is they're so used to in high school out athleting everybody. They're always the fastest guy will in college. That's not usually the case. So you do have to follow those blocks and, running it inside. It's tough. Running inside is a lot of the time you're taking a corner, you're taking it blind. You're anticipating that the block is going to be there, but you kind of have to just hit the hole and know, my guys up front did their job. If I'm following the lead block right here, if I'm following off Holler's tail, now I should be able to break to daylight. And that's what he does right here is, he gets like another 12 yards, 14 yards off it. And to me, I mean, any run that's over 4.5 yards is a big run.
Especially in that scenario too. Yeah.
Yeah. And now to make it a 21-yard run, that's huge.
And let me offer an apology. Looking at this again, that's actually Paul Rubelt. You'll see at the very end here, number 85, Zach Marsh Wojan, tight end on the ground there, making that play as Bowser. So again, that's tight end on that right side. So in that play alone, 2 tight ends, Alec Holler and Zach Marsh Wojan, make big plays. And this brings up a question, Andy, that kind of permeated on social media this week, and I'll take the picture off screen. A lot of folks are asking about Kamari Gamble. Kamari Gamble, a transfer tight end from Florida, starter there. Had a really big impact at Florida. From the stats that we saw, he did not play a down in this game, which would be kind of interesting to think through why you bring this kid in, a transfer tight end. But is this why situations like this, where you have blockers like Zach Mark Wojan and you have Alec Holler who can kind of seal this up? Is this why somebody potentially maybe doesn't get on the field because of what those two guys can do in the blocking game?
Potentially. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely always, you have a lot of, your receiving tight ends, your blocking tight ends, and then you're kind of your combo guys in the middle. And I know that he caught a good amount of balls over at Florida. I didn't necessarily watch his blocking. I know that also, he kind of had that personal foul penalty. So maybe that's why he didn't play in the Memphis game. I don't know necessarily what was going on there. But because earlier in the year he was playing in those.
He was playing a bunch, yeah.
And he was definitely playing in the Wildcat too, blocking. Cincinnati he was getting in there as well. So whether that's it, I don't know. But having said that, this is no disrespect to him or any of the other tight ends. If you can get Paul Rubel in there, 6'9", 6'10", whatever he is, 300 pounds, and he can run guys off the ball like that, I mean that's a pretty good option as well. So. That's not a slight to any of the tight ends run blocking ability or pass blocking ability. That's just kind of the nature of it. If there's a guy who's a little bit better than you, get him in the game.
Well, we've seen this guy do some blocking. Obviously, he had the biggest play of the game here. So this is the now what'll be the legendary holler hop play. So
Yeah,
this is a 3rd and 9. Yeah, UCF's obviously backed up in their own territory at this point.
yeah.
This is one we got to convert. We don't want to give the ball back to Memphis. Take us through sort of pre-snap here, kind of what you're seeing, and what Memphis is showing.
Yeah. The last 3rd and 9, they gave us quarters. They're playing quarters out of it, and it looks like that's exactly what we were expecting. We were expecting either quarters, cover two, some sort of middle field open type of play, and instead they didn't do that at all. They end up going man blitz right here, and that really kind of messes everything up. You see that. So on the on the bottom of the screen where Haller's tucked away, he's in his typical wing spot. We have safety starting to roll down. We have basically they start adjusting and moving, and I think right about now is when we kind of realize, okay, they're not playing quarters anymore. This is going to be a different look than we were anticipating. So maybe you want to get out of that call, but at this point, I don't even know if we had timeouts left. I think we had called them earlier in the, I think we called some in the 3rd quarter, so I don't even think we had timeouts left in the game. So it's just kind of one of those things, you're stuck running it. But blitz coming from the top of the field as well. And yeah, this is a little play action fake. We end up pulling around we pull right guard again. So to give that little play action fake, Harvey does a nice job. He's covering or playing out his fake. And then that does end up helping us. That buys us an extra second or two, because you see there's a lot of guys who are starting to funnel over to Harvey as well. And I think that Memphis just kind of really, they do start to bust this a little bit, maybe too much attention. You got 2 linebackers chasing out Harvey. And then the Holler does a really good job of, in the screen game, you can't just completely let the guy go. You can't just lay it. You do have to block it for a second. You do have to, it's usually like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then kind of release and go, especially if you're the guy who's trying to catch the ball. So he did a good job of taking the edge on and then getting into his position. I think it's right tackle right there.
I was going to ask you that question if we can scroll back for a second here. So if you sort of watch this play develop, right, you see, I think it's left tackle. I think that's Tulane Grable is already upfield now. He's at about the 27-yard line. So was this a screen call then? And this was what we were running no matter what? And can you tell that by the fact that you have the offensive lineman so far out front?
Yeah. So this was design screen that we were going. And usually in the screen, you're normally going to have, say, like 3 of the guys. Maybe it's guard, center, guard, or you have designed, exactly who are the guys who are going to stay back and kind of do the runoffs, and who are the guys who are going to get in front and lead the way and be the main blockers. Having said that, now it's tough when they start going man blitz and they're running a pretty good call into it, because it probably should have gotten blown up right here. The one thing I'll say is it looks like the Memphis linebacker, he's slipping right when he's trying to get to Holler. I think that part of it is he got his momentum pushed. So when he started to run down, he actually did get a nice little shove, and I think we can see that from the end zone shot of it. So I think that's kind of where he lost some of that footing. And then again, another really, really good point to the O lineman. Now they're not getting the lead up front, so now they're kind of pinning back, fencing back. But nobody's going for a kill shot right here. Nobody's going to take off somebody's head, because with the new rules in the NCAA, if you were to do that, blindside, crack block somebody going against the grain, you're going to get that thing called back. It's 15 yards against you. So they did a good job of just really, again, you don't need the kill shots. You just need to be a kind of a warm body in there and, get in their way enough to slow them down from trying to get to your guy. And then, Holler, this is just, this is effort.
Let's back that. If I had told you at this moment in time right here that this play was going to pick up essentially, 10 more yards. So what would you have told? Just looking at this frame right here, if I said, hey, that guy's going to run for 10 yards, right? 9 times out of 10, you say absolutely no way, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. You see it, and it was snuffed out pretty well. You knew it was, it was kind of dead to rights. Again, I think that was part of what really did make it successful, was that guard action. When the guard pulls around, right guard pulls left, and then Harvey goes across, you do see 2 defenders get pulled over that way. So, probably
those are the 2 guys you're talking about right here. I think it's 2 single jerseyed guys right there around the black yard marker. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's probably where you would have, gotten a little bit of that interference. No offense to whatever 97 or whoever that is from Memphis. He's a big body. He's like a D end. He's probably not catching him. That's like a lot of on the jet sweep stuff. You don't cover the big guy on the front side just because they're not going to be quick enough or fast enough to go catch it. So really, the guys who you're more worried about are the guys who are in front.
Okay, so you got a guy missing right here. You got a little bit, just a little piece right here. I think that's Sam Jackson gets a little piece of this guy,
Yep.
and then to your point, Holler's gonna just make an incredible one-on-one play for a first down, a huge, obviously, play in the game. One of those things that, again, we'll probably be talking about the Holler hop, for a couple of years now, and just kind of the way. But I think it's interesting to think through. And in your opinion, when you see this right here, there was no way this play was going to work, right? At this point, you look at this and say, man, Memphis has the perfect call on for this play. We may have to eat this one or take negative yards and punt it away and hope the defense can hold it. But if not for just a good individual effort by Holler, maybe a little luck on the guy slipping, a little piece of a guy here. And it's so funny to me that when you watch these things kind of in more detail, the small little breaks that just really make a game, right? There's literally 3 breaks in that little play. And without that, maybe UCF doesn't steal this victory up.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the beauty of college football is it's so imperfect. It's not, the NFL is much more polished players, but I think that's kind of the fun of college football too. Is you have you have guys who they're athletic enough, but regardless of that, it's sometimes you just have guys who good days, bad days. Some guys just make better plays. Sometimes you just get a lot of coverage busts in college football, and I think that's kind of the part of the beauty of it. I think that's also part of why people shouldn't get so upset about it's when you're ruining your whole season or your whole week or whatever it is on a 22-year-old kid or 19-year-old kid. I think that's just something where you're watching these guys go out there, and obviously they're trying to do everything they can. And the coaches are really working their tail off behind the scenes to try to prep them and get them ready, even when things aren't necessarily working out in those situations. They're trying to make the best calls that they can. So, yeah.
Well, so in full transparency to the audience, Andy and I get on this before we hit record and we go, hey, let's keep this at 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And every time so far, there's no way we can do that. So we do have a couple of quick clips I do want to show, though, Andy, because you spent some time to look at Tulane. So you pulled a couple of clips of what to expect this upcoming week against Tulane. So here, I'll show a couple different offensive clips. And one of them, obviously, the quarterback for Tulane, Michael Pratt, is somebody that, UCF's played before. We kind of know who he is a little bit, but this is a play that you pulled and kind of walk us through what you're seeing here from Tulane and sort of, what the defensive call should be here and maybe how UCF can defend something like this.
Yeah, I mean, Tulane, you're in kind of that low red zone area. They're going double tight end. They're really spreading out the line. They're adding gaps right there. So initially, you're kind of thinking it's potentially run. They're trying to buy the edges by adding gaps in there. They run their jet sweep package through, and now you're also trying to think, okay, jet's coming, so you start having safeties who are going to fly over the top because they need to go beat them to the edge. And this is a play. John Rice runs this as well. This isn't a completely unique play, but it's very, very hard to stop. It's, jet power. And basically what you have is you're going to have the guard is still going to be pulling and leading. So on the backside guard, you see 68. He's doing his little spider walk up the hole. And now you're pulling over the top safeties. And so their flow is going the wrong way because when the quarterback pulls it, now you're basically trying to turn and cut and go backwards. And you're almost never going to be able to just stop in the middle of what you're doing, turn around and go break the other way. So it's just super, super dangerous play. Quarterback can definitely move. He's a mobile quarterback. I know we've had, maybe some issues here and there with trying to stop mobile quarterbacks. And that's, not necessarily he's not always going to necessarily have those designed runs. He will, though, break the pocket and start to scramble for some yards as well. So he's, he trusts his legs.
The other thing I want to show is number 22, Tyjae Spears. You're going to hear his name a bunch. I have a clip for him in a second here. He is the running back here. You'll see he's he's about to go out in a block. Watch this block he lays on this. I mean, he just flat out lays this guy out. Yeah, takes him absolutely out of the picture. And that's a pancake. And to your point, the pulling guard, and before you know it, you've got Michael Pratt in the end zone too. So something to maybe keep an eye on here for Tulane. Here's another clip. This was an interesting play call, play design that they showed. This is, you labeled this a sort of a bubble shot. So I'd love for you to kind of explain to us what this play is right here.
Yeah. So we actually similar to the play that we ran against Temple for the touchdown, and similar to the play that we said that Mikey actually missed O'Keefe on that potential touchdown against Cincinnati as well. They really like to stretch you horizontally. So whether it's Spears or whomever, they're going to really attack the flats, do very much like what ECU did to us, where they're going to try to make you cover down. If you don't start covering down on the flats, they're just going to pick you apart and kill you all day. He's not afraid to check it down. He's not afraid to go to the flats. What they're calling right now is, they're calling a little bit of switch, 1 behind 2 again, or 2 behind 1. And, they're trying to play off that screen game. So they've been hitting them with the screen for most of the game. You're going to fake that little bubble action right there to the slot receiver. He's turning in. You have the corner biting down. I think they're in cover 2 right here. And then it opens up this little window for the shot play. They don't end up hitting it, but this is, something where I wouldn't rely on them to miss it.
Well, so what you're looking at is right about where the American logo is on the 25. You see a defender from Tulsa, and he's in conflict right now because he's trying to decide: do I try to make a hit on the sort of the receiver right in front of me from the bubble? And he sort of pauses for just 1 millisecond, and that's just enough time for the receiver behind him to break and make a nice catch and make a nice play. Safety's kind of late getting over there too. Obviously, it's not completed, but to your point, I don't know how many of those are going to miss throughout the day too. But it definitely seems like from what the 2 plays you've showed, the Tulane's going to put UCF in situations where their defenders are going to be in conflict, make a decision, declare one way or the other, and they're sort of prepared to beat you either way.
Yeah, I'm shocked, honestly, when I see some of their box scores and I see some of the drives stall out, because I think they're the most athletic team we've seen this year, more athletic than I would say Louisville, than Georgia Tech, Cincinnati. Their Spears is just unbelievable. And the 2 running backs behind him are very good. And then you have Watts and you have Wyatt. And their whole skill group is very fast, very good. And if you miss them early, they're going to be gone. They're going to break it away for a 60-yard touchdown. So it's going to be a challenge for the defense, I think, for sure. And I do think that they're probably, because of how comfortable they are just stretching the field, I think they are going to do a lot of what ECU did to us, where they're going to force us, hey, if you're not going to play us up close tight, then we're just going to keep picking you apart on the sides, and hope that we break one long.
We mentioned Tajay Spears. Here he is, taking us kind of simple handoff, makes a guy miss, and before you know it, this is a big gainer. This was 3rd and 21, by the way, and this is probably one of those where it's a throwaway play, right? You're going to get like 10 yards, give your punter some space, and get off the field. Granted, Houston's defense, I wouldn't be handing them any awards anytime soon, but even a high snap there, you see, gets through the tunnel and is off to the races for a first down. This kid's going to be a problem on Saturday.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Every single play I've seen of his, it makes me nervous, because he has that ability to he gets to like 100 immediately. There's no real ramp up time for him to get fully going. He's basically, as soon as the ball touches his hands, he's full speed and he's cutting and he's moving. It's scary what he's doing, especially because he can run outside, he can run inside, and he catches the ball out of the backfield. They pass to him a decent amount of all-purpose yards. I think he has about 1,000 all-purpose yards right now in the season. So people might look at the box score and say, he doesn't rush for that many yards. Well, they throw them to him a decent amount as well.
You actually put together your keys to the game. So a couple of things to kind of keep an eye on here. So first you have is Tulane's speed. And so that jumped off the tape at you, just sort of the speed and quickness on the offensive side.
Yeah. Again, it's that's what's making me nervous right there, just from their standpoint, is if it turns into a shootout, because they can definitely break it. Having said that, kind of going to point 2 is, between the trenches, I think that's where the game is going to be won or lost. They've stalled out on some drives, and I'm not quite sure how or why. I watched the Southern Miss game back. They had the lead, and then you kind of stall out, you drop out, and then they had to punt. They get a punt blocked on them. So there's opportunity there, I think, to eventually kind of clamp down on it. But looking at them as a whole, if you don't stop those first and second down plays, they could be off to the races, and that really makes you nervous. I think, I think to your point of, say, maybe last year, you and Mike were talking on the podcast against SMU, and that's what we were really nervous about, was SMU kind of turns into a track meet, And then this year, obviously, we were able to contain them. So hopefully we're able to do the same thing as opposed to last year where they're breaking away 50-yard touchdowns.
And games like this, and we talked about it this week on the podcast, more so from UCF's perspective, right? If you want to win a big game on the road, this is an upset in all intents and purposes, right? Tulane 17 or 16 in the CFP, UCF 22 at this point. Sometimes you need that third phase of the game, right? You need a break on special teams, maybe a punt block, maybe a muff punt, something along those lines. But from your perspective, Tulane is a bit of a dangerous team that we have to watch for on special teams as well.
Huge grab bag. They're it's crazy. They've had a long punt return. So their punt returner is one of, I think, tops in the nation. He's averaging 15 yards per punt return. So, that's unbelievable. Hopefully we're not punting, but if we do punt, let's not punt him. And that's, in all sincerity, let's just not punt to him. Let's just get it out of bounds. Let's do the roll punt, whatever we have to do. And then he had another one against Houston that should have been 90-yard touchdown. They end up calling it back for like a little ticky-tack block in the back, but you see it on film, how good they are with that. But then they've had some really negative plays on that as well. They had 2 or 3 punts blocked. They've had some field goals blocked. I think it looked like they've had 2 or 3 different kickers on the year, which may be very similar to us, where punt block for us has been good, and then field goal for us didn't start out so good. So we've been a little bit of a mixed grab bag, and special teams is that third phase of the game that it definitely could change the game for us one way or another, and hopefully it's for the positive. So knowing that we have been able to block a punt this year and they've had a few blocked on them, maybe we go for one at some point in the game.
Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, coming off a really nice road win against Memphis. Again, something UCF hadn't done this year, and it's something I think we all wanted to see if they could win a road conference game. We accomplished that. Now, it comes down to Saturday, Andy. Really, the reality is the winner of this game is in the driver's seat for the American Conference Championship. So, at least the ability to host the AAC Championship, obviously, at that point, I guess all bets are off. But, the winner of this one's in the driver's seat, just like we thought at the beginning of the year. UCF and Tulane would come down to the biggest game of the year, but that's certainly how it's gonna shake down this time around. Andy, we appreciate you again taking time to join us and provide your insight, all the work you do putting clips together and studying these teams as well. Again, where can people follow you on Twitter if they want to get more of your clips? I know we showcase some here, but you do clips throughout the week of both the past game and the upcoming game. So where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, Twitter's going to be the best place for football stuff at UCFXOS. Or UCFXOS, however, I don't know how we say it. XOs.
I don't know how to pronounce that either. I've been struggling with how to pronounce that. Because I call it X's and O's, but then there's not a second X.
That's kind of what I say. I kind of say, X's and I don't know. I made it 8-9 weeks ago now at this point.
That's what we all do. Yeah. When I made a podcast called Sons of UCF, I did not think this was going to be a long-term thing. So what are you going to do? But it's UCFXOS is how you find it on Twitter.
Correct. Yeah, that's how I find it on Twitter. Throughout the week, I'm usually posting, just highlighting plays, especially a lot of the kind of like what we looked at, a lot of the line play as well, kind of giving those guys some love that they might not necessarily get because they're not scoring touchdowns, but they're kind of making the play within the play. Personal Instagram, you can go look at that. I'm on there like once a month. I don't really go on there. I post pictures of my dog and my wife, and that's about it. And that's so if you guys want to look that up, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably just stick to the Twitter. So.
If that's not a sales job, I don't know what is, friends. Again, if you like the inside info, the X's and O's as it is of football, especially of UCF, nobody better than Andy Bartsch. Again, UCFXOS is where you can find him. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter. Andy, thanks so much for joining us again this week. You got your Not Nation shirt on there. Okay. JP Gilbert's happy wherever he's at if he's watching this. But this is a lot of fun. Again, I appreciate you taking the time, and assuming that the censors that be don't redline our show, maybe we'll do this again next week. You never know. So again, make sure you're following us on YouTube if you want to catch more of the stuff we do with Andy. But we appreciate you as always, man. Charge on.
Hey, thank you so much. Happy holidays.